After a very successful United States visit, Prime Minister Modi received an astounding welcome in Egypt's Cairo. It is the second and final day of the Prime Minister's maiden state visit to the African nation. The Prime Minister has kick-started day 2 in Egypt by visiting 1,000-year-old Cairo historic al-Hakim Mosque. Prime Minister Modi visited Heliopolis War Cemetery and paid a tribute to the Indian soldiers who made supreme sacrifices during the First World War. Later, he met Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. The meeting with President Sisi was followed by a delegation-level talk, signing of MOUs. Egyptian President conferred Prime Minister Modi with the Order to the Nile Award. Order to the Nile is Egypt's highest state honor. Prime Minister Modi also paid a visit to the Great Sphinx and Pyramid of Khafre in Giza, located on the west bank of Nile River. He is going to be leaving for New Delhi later today.
Today I was honored, a lot, to meet His Excellency Prime Minister Modi, and it was a very nice and interesting meeting. In fact, actually he reflects the wise leadership, and for a big country like India, our meeting today is actually our second interaction, as we have met earlier in Delhi in one of the Sufi conferences there, and also it reflects that the wise policies that are being adopted by Prime Minister Modi in bringing coexistence between the various factions, there in India.
Okay, ladies, coming in after the U.S. visit, the Prime Minister received a welcome in Egypt's Cairo. The second and final day of Prime Minister's maiden state visit to the African nation. We're also bringing you how the Prime Minister kick-started day 2 in Egypt by visiting 1,000-year-old Cairo's historic al-Hakim Mosque. He also went on a visit to Heliopolis War Cemetery and paid tribute to the Indian soldiers who made supreme sacrifices during the First World War. He also met President Sisi. The meeting was followed by delegation-level talks. There were some MOUs that were signed. Egyptian President Sisi conferred Prime Minister Modi with the Order of the Nile Award. Getting you the latest, as the Prime Minister paid a visit to the Great Sphinx and Pyramid of Khafre in Giza, which is located on the west bank of the River Nile. Later this evening, he will be leaving for the national capital and will be back home from his trip to the U.S. and to Egypt as well. You do know that the trip in U.S. was a rather successful one, and these are first up visuals coming on India Today exclusively of the Prime Minister in Egypt's Cairo, the second and final day of the Prime Minister's maiden state visit to the African nation. The Prime Minister started his day 2 in Egypt by visiting 1,000-year-old Cairo historic al-Hakim Mosque. He also went to the Heliopolis War Cemetery, paying tribute to Indian soldiers. He also met Egyptian President Sisi. The meeting was followed by delegation-level talks. There was also a signing of the MOUs, and he was conferred with the Order of Nile Award.
Both countries have a lot to gain with each other's partnership, and it was very encouraging to hear the announcement early in January that India and Egypt have elevated the partnership to be a strategic partnership, and this visit reaffirms that intent, and I'm sure this will help both the countries grow their business relations, their cultural relations, and also result in a lot more growth and prosperity for both the countries.
Egyptian culture and Indian culture somehow matches very well. Both the cultures are old civilized people, and I'm sure not only strategic partnership, but we'll have some more, fundamental mutual partnership. Will get stronger with Egypt. Egyptians are very warm. We love their warmth, and that's what keeping us here. And we want to grow this bond further.
All right, Prime Minister in Egypt right there. We're playing out those reactions for our viewers as well of his trip to Egypt. If you can see on your screens right there, the Prime Minister being taken around in Egypt. He's visiting the pyramids. You can see him standing right there with the Egyptian delegation to My colleague Saira Amin has filed a story from Egypt. Take a look.
Today is the second and final day of Prime Minister Modi's visit to Egypt, a visit that is expected to give impetus to the strategic partnership launched during President Sisi's visit to India in January, when he was chief guest at the Republic Day celebrations. So yesterday, the Indian Premier met with his Egyptian counterpart. We saw that Prime Minister Mostafa Madbouly greeted him at the airport very warmly. He also met with several cabinet ministers in roundtable talks and with other prominent Egyptian figures, including the Grand Mufti of Egypt, who issues religious edicts. He also addressed members of the Indian community here in Egypt, made up mostly of business owners and investors who have been in Egypt for a long time. And today, the agenda of Prime Minister Modi is that he will hold talks with President Sisi, which are expected to focus on cross-border terrorism, security issues, and of course economic and trade ties.